I believe weak men are a cancer to our country.
I don't like careful men. I'm not going to speak up on this person on my team. I'm not going to speak up on this person.
A weak man is a man that is not willing to take a stand for what he believes in, leaves his kid, chooses to give in to pornography when his wife's laying right next to them, moves to a different state when his kids live in one state.
The men who just approach the world really carefully, almost 95% of them are always a breath away from cowardly men. Have you guys noticed the rise of masculine women in Christian households? Why are boys taking longer than ever to become men? Are wicked men or weak men more of a danger to our culture? Skylar Lewis, my new friend and the CEO and founder of Rise Up Kings, a mentorship community for Christian men, joins me today to talk about how we need to change the landscape of how we support men as young adults and even throughout adulthood. We shouldn't be surprised by the state of our culture, guys, when we look at how boys are being raised. This episode goes beyond diagnosing the problem. It gives you the tools to raise strong, godly men who stand against the culture of death. By the way, if you want to rep the message of Christian resistance and do it in a fun and hilarious way, check out Gruber Wear. Gruber Wear. We got shirts like former fetus or I identify as trans vaccinated. Check out the link in the show notes to get your fun Gruber Wear and a talking point when you're traveling or at a family gathering. Give us a rating and review to help us reach more people. I recently saw this incredible review from Sammy.10. This is why we love reading your reviews. It says, I just started listening to the Seth Gruber show, and it is so rock solid. His episode about third wayism is the exact reason why my family and I just left our church and are in search of one that is stronger and unafraid to speak biblical truth on cultural issues in our day. It's so refreshing to hear strong, bold encouragement and truth that is not watered down. That's awesome. Sammy.10, thank you. That's what we are building together, guys. It's encouraging. That makes my day. It's so encouraging to read reviews like that. Are you ready? Let's get into it. This is the Seth Gruber Show. Skyler, welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, grateful to be here.
Thank you, man. So through mutual friends, I kind of discovered Rise Up Kings. And I'm like, well, that's a heck of a ministry name right there. And I just love what you're doing. You haven't been on the show before, and I want people to get accustomed to kind of who you are, your ministry. I'm sure we'll get into your background, but tell us a little bit about Rise Up Kings and where God's kind of put you in getting men back into leading and defending.
Yeah, there's a statistic that you probably are aware of, but in the 1960s, 5% of births happened outside of marriage. And in 2021, 41% of births happen outside of marriage. So there's a major masculinity crisis. There's a ton of kids that are being born outside of marriage. And I believe that's due to the way men are leading. And so, man, I just have a passion for seeing men step up. And so, yeah, our ministry, our work is tied to, it's a little unconventional in how we do. We put on these intensives, these 3-4 day intensives, military style. We got Green Beret guys, ex-NFL players, and we do some hard physical things, some emotional, some spiritual, some mental. We kind of push guys to the limit and then allow God to do some powerful work inside them. And they end up on the other side with a newfound fire to lead their families well and to just lead well in general. Because I'd say that's the biggest thing is a leadership crisis. Men don't, they've abdicated some of that responsibility and they haven't been leading effectively. And so I believe it's on our shoulders and on our backs, the crises that we have, even with abortion, heavily, it's on men. And
it's all connected.
Yeah, totally. And so so I have a massive heart for that, because of some of my past too, but yeah, it's neat. I'm glad we got connected. I love what you're doing. So
thank you, bro. So that stat you gave, that was the 50s, you said?
Yeah, 1960. Yeah, 1960 was 5% of births happened out. So 95% happened within the marriage.
Yeah. I mean, I had heard the increase of out of wedlock or babies born without married parents, but that's just insane, dude.
It's massive. It's a travesty. So there's a lot of kids that are growing up without their dads at their home, or growing up with single dads, which really means that the mom's primarily taking care of these boys. So there's kind of an identity crisis happening with these. I mean, I'd say men born over the last 20 years-ish really have some confusion on what it means to be a man, because they've really been raised by their moms in a more feminine environment. So yeah, we actually have an event going on right now. I'm at my headquarters here in Dallas. We have a large group of Gen Z guys. One of our event series is for young men, so it's 18 to 26-year-olds. So they're out actually in the mud pit right now doing some work, and we got our instructors, and they're kind of just exposing their mindsets and their identity and the way they believe through some physical encounters. And yeah, so we're kind of toughening up these guys so they can handle life and handle reality, and really show up. Most of them aren't married right now. A lot of these guys are single, but we want them prepped and ready to rock to provide and protect for their future wives.
But first, we want to thank one of our incredible sponsors of the Seth Gruber Show, Every Life Diaper Company. This is America's pro-life diaper company, y'all. You know what's great is when conservatives stop whining and moaning about evil, and then they go do something about it. That's what my friends, who are personal friends, who founded Every Life Diaper did. They went and built an alternative with quality baby supplies, diapers, wipes, baby shampoos, lotions, and now a line of fem care. Quality, not woke, pro-America, pro-family, pro-life. And that's because we found all these companies just funding and celebrating the most evil stuff the last few years, right? Especially 2020 and 2021. Our friends at Every Life found that almost every major American diaper company is pro-abortion. The baby brands celebrate the baby killing, and they pay their employees to go travel and kill their babies. You need to go to everylife.com. Use promo code Seth10 for 10% off your first order. If you have babies and you need wipes and diapers, or your church or your friends are having babies, tell them. No more coterie, okay? No more huggies, okay? No more Hellabella. Go to everylife.com. Promo code Seth10 for 10% off your first order. Let them know that we sent you. That's important. And let's make America pro-life again. While all of us having the most babies only buy our diapers from everylife.com. Thank you. Well, then, Skylar, if I may, and you can tell me if this is off track here, but it sounds like what a lot of what you're doing with your team and with Rise Up Kings is you're kind of doing some of the fathering, and because there's no such thing as parenting, right? There's fathering and mothering. I think that's really important, right? When people just talk about parenting, no parent can provide everything to a child. That's why the Lord said Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
Yep.
And it sounds like, especially with the breakdown in the family in America, you're kind of providing, is this right, a space and time and people to do some of that really like gnarly heart work that most young boys would have and should have received from their father.
Yep, 100%. So it's not only for men that didn't have, guys that grew up in a normal, loving household. Fathers didn't know how to mentor their sons, right? Previously, kids they would get raised on the farm, and so they would be with their dad throughout the day.
Yep.
Right, this is before the education system was designed the way it was. So they'd be with their dad on the farm, and their dad would be mentoring them, guiding them, teaching them what it means to be a man, how to provide, how to protect, right? How to protect them from harmful things inside their environment. And so now they just the kids get delegated to school, and the school's raising our kids. And so dads are like, they get home, they're tired after a long day of work. They don't know what it means to mentor and to be a guide for their boys and for their kids. And so there's a giant gap here, and it's pretty significant. Hence why I was talking to a guy today. I won't name him, but a good friend of mine. He's deciding to divorce his wife, and so now this kid's going to be raised in two different households, and it's it's a mess. It's a mess out there right now. And so I think at the core of this, like you talked about, is just the way society's been. This trend has been happening. So something has to shift. Something has to change where men start taking their role more serious as the providers and protectors and the people that they're responsible for keeping the family unit in check, not the wives. Like we're responsible. We always mention that women are kind of like donkeys. You can put as much weight on them and they will just take it. And so that's what men have done. They just keep handing stuff off, the schoolwork, the faith. They hand it off to their wives. And wives, if a man's not showing up responsibly, like their wife will take it on. If I don't show up well, my wife will start taking responsibilities and running with them. If I don't go to church, she's going to be taking the kids to church. So like women, but they're not built for that. We do that to them. We treat them like donkeys, but they're not built for the level of stress and the burden that men alone can carry. Yeah. So we're designed to be able to hold more of the stress, which I believe has caused a masculine, the rise of the masculine woman, a woman that's really focused on providing and protecting their family, when really, like my wife, she does her best when she's in her feminine. She's the most playful, the most fun, the most carefree. When I get her in that state, man, she is so attractive to me, and she is like, she's incredible. But when she starts pulling responsibilities from me, and she moves into the masculine, which is get it done, execution, type mindset. Her being changes, and she actually starts. She's just been dealing with a Lyme battle, but her health will decrease over time. The more masculine and the more burden a woman is placed on a woman. So, men, we got a lot of responsibility. Women do too, but God's called us to be the head of the household for a reason. Like we're designed to be able to carry this load.
Dude, have you seen any of those interviews that? There's one in particular that's coming to mind, but occasionally you'll have a pedophile who kind of comes out of his criminal behavior. Maybe he's still serving life in prison, but he'll give a testimony to law enforcement or to like an interviewer, and they'll openly acknowledge, you know where I'm going? How do they identify their targets? How do they identify what kind of kid to go after? And how do they know when to stay away and back the hell off and not even attempt to target a kid? It's the father. They would look for families with a weak father or no father. You probably see even the data where if a mother and father are married and living in the same home and the biological father is present, his own daughter's first period will begin a year or 2 years later than daughters who were living with a single mother or live-in boyfriends. So the presence of the father is not just a physical threat to would-be pedophiles. It has a biological change in the lives of their own daughters. I don't know if you had thought about that kind of stuff before or seen that, but
yeah, that's wild. And I totally believe it. It's the way God designed us. We're supposed to be actively involved, right, with our kids. And so I saw I've heard many interviews where they pinpoint if they notice that there's a weak father, physically weak, like meaning not a risk, not dangerous. They will go after those kids if there is a non-dangerous looking man, which means, we can get into this hyper masculine, hyper ego type bro type thing. So we're not all about that. And yeah, you should be able to protect your wife and your kids if someone's coming at you. And I do believe that's part of our responsibility as men is to protect. It was neat. We just put on this event. It's called the Genesis. It's for 13 to 17-year-old boys, and it is a rite of passage experience.
Oh my gosh.
We did our first one. Then we're going to be doing a ton of them. And
dude, then I mentioned it earlier, you have to meet my friend Jaco Buyens from Texas. He does rites of passage events.
Does he? I'd love to.
You and him are the only two men I've ever met who have built these things for others. But continue. Yeah,
because there's a ton of books on doing it for your own sons, but there's not a facilitated one. And so so I brought my son through it. And through this whole process, because what's happened is there's something called extended adolescence. You familiar with that terminology? But it's basically, it's the extension of adolescence. So kids now are taking longer than ever to become men. Not a man is not a man when he turns 18. That's a male. You're a male, right? You're a man, though. A man is a mindset. It is a mindset shift where you shift from taking to giving, where you shift from being taken care of. A boy is where you're taken care of. A man is where you start taking care of others. So I have my nephew, love the guy, 20 years old, like, Mom, where's my food? Mom, like, it's like, dude, I had to have a hard conversation with him. I said, dude, man, you're 20 years old. He got pissed off at his mom because there wasn't enough groceries in the refrigerator, single mom. And so I'm like, bro, you're supposed to be providing for your mom, not your mom taking care of you. Like, you're still a boy. I actually called him a boy. I said a boy is their needs are, they need to be taken care of. A man is when you take care of other people. And so like that, but for him, like there's no rite of passage. There was nothing there was no transition. There was nothing that happened to determine the shift from boyhood to manhood. And so we just saw a major gap. And so we ran our first one. I had my son, he's 13, go through it. It was just so cool. He had a major shift where he started to, he's helping out with the groceries. He's helping out with food. Wow. He's starting to, we were at a restaurant and he was talking about, hey, how would you like handle the situation in case we had to protect, mom? And so he's thinking through how does he start protecting those around him as a 13-year-old. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. By the time this kid's 16, 17 years old, that mindset integration, the movie Inception, right? We placed an idea that he is supposed to be the provider and protector at 13 years old. So now he's already he's ruminating on how to be this for the people around him. So I'd say that's where we kind of missed it. And that's the opportunity though. The more, if we can hit this younger generation where we shift their mindset, where they're not 30 years old when they finally get it, but they're, 16 years old. I think we could shift this trend that's happening, where 41% of births are happening. I believe we can get it back down to, 20%, would be incredible. So,
yeah. Well, Skylar, what's your story? I mean, what was the turning point for you? When did were you just kind of incredible parents and you always got it? Or did you kind of go on your own sort of journey that the Lord took you on to be able to guide other men, right? You can only take someone somewhere that you've already been.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, my journey, I grew up in a little town called Hemet, 700 square foot mobile home. Struggled with insecurity, a lot of self-doubt, and thought my way to get value would be through entrepreneurial success. So started a bunch of businesses at 12, 13, 14, building websites, all kinds of stuff. And so I started, by the time I was 22, had created some success, but my parents, they'd got divorced. And so my dad was a good dad. My mom, broken, bipolar, loved Jesus, but very lost in how to live out her faith. I mean, she would if friends, her motto was, hey, I'd rather you not drink at other people's house. I'd rather people be drinking at our house so I can supervise you. So we'd be getting drunk with our buddies at 16 years old, getting wasted on her box. Remember box wine?
Gosh.
Remember the good old box wine? So we would just get hammered on box wine and throw up. It was pretty crazy, but that was my life. So I had this insecurity plus this need for validation and value. Plus I had Jesus, but then I had not a great model of how to live out like a great life. And so when I met my wife at 22, 23, struggled really being the man that she needed me to be. I didn't have a great example. And so I brought in a lot of bad habits with pornography, with some drinking, with just, I'd say, immature, boyish behavior. And I brought that boyish behavior, did a lot of damage in our marriage, significant damage. And so we went on a journey of just reconciliation and healing, and did a lot of deep work on myself, going through different seminars and coaches. And wow. I found out there's a way to live in freedom that I had never seen before. And so
Was that a spiritual journey for you at that point, or was that just like fine-tuning the metaphysics and physics so you could just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps?
It was a combination. It was a spiritual journey, right? A revelation that Jesus actually wants me to live a life of freedom. I had seen my mom in so much bondage, but loved Jesus with all of her heart. There's a verse where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Yet I don't meet a ton of Christians that are truly living in freedom. That like really live in freedom, that are free from bondage, free from addiction, free from these thoughts, emotionally free, not struggling with anger, depression, anxiety, sadness. They're still locked up. And so I'm like, okay. But I had a revelation that like, hey, no, Jesus actually wants us to experience heaven on earth and to live in freedom from these things. And so when I had that revelation, I went on a journey of figuring out how to make that happen. Through the healing that came through Scripture, but also a lot of other deep personal development work that was fairly secular. And so what we did was we just got clear after we created a ton of freedom and healing in our marriage. I got clear that like Christians need to experience more of this. You can go to Tony Robbins, you can go to all this other stuff, but there's a lot of foo-foo in some of these things. And so we wanted to create some grounded, biblically based personal development work where people could go do deep healing work and then really live in freedom and in true freedom. So my mom, I love her, bless her heart, right? She's 66. She drinks alcohol every day, has no friendships, broken relationships. She lives on a property. We have a family compound with my mom, my sister, and my grandma, like a lot of our family, but she's in her little tiny home that I built for her. And she just struggles. She just struggles. And so I hate that. I absolutely hate to see brokenness when we have the source of like true freedom. And so I do have a passion for seeing Christians live in freedom. And I believe it's completely possible. So yeah, that's a little bit of my journey.
That was sort of the vibes I got when I checked out Rise Up Kings. Skylar was like, hey, this kind of has like a little bit of a Tony Robbins, Ed Milet feel to it, but like with Jesus, not just with empty, hollow phrases about improving yourself, but like celebrating the innate, ingrained aspect that a lot of men have to succeed, to build, to grow, to be successful. But like wrapping that, or I don't know what the right analogy is, but wrapping that with the Christian faith, restructuring it so it's not just about like,
it's not an add-on. Jesus should not be an add-on. It needs to be the foundation.
And that's what most of those things feel like, the personal development stuff. It feels like Jesus is maybe an add-on, kind of like a Joel Osteen, Your Best Life Now. And I was like, this is cool because I haven't seen another group really do that well, or to the extent that you have. So when did that story begin with Rise Up Kings? You know, how did the Lord lead you to launch that, and kind of how's he been using that? Like, what's been a lot of the fruit of the lane he's put you in? Guys, this company is amazing. I was going to say something. I'm done turning on the TV and seeing gay couples with children. Obviously, we don't even turn the TV on around the kids, but you turn on something, you're at an airport, it's just everything's gay. Am I crazy for not wanting my children to read about other children change their genders because their pedophile-leaning parent wants them to? No, this is why I needed Brave Books. They create stories, like really good stories, that kids actually want to read, but unlike the junk coming out of Hollywood, these stories are intentionally designed to build biblical conviction and moral clarity and courage from an early age. We need brave children, right? That's why you got to go to Brave Books. They reinforce timeless truths like the sanctity of life and God-given identity and the fruits of the Spirit. And through encouraging stories and hands-on family activities and scripture woven into every book, your children can have fun, celebrate narrative and story, and actually be formed to stand against this culture. And when you join the Brave Book Club, a new book is delivered to your door every month. And you also get free access to Brave Plus. Brave Plus. Did you know about this? It's incredible. It's their streaming platform filled exclusively with parent-approved content that actually supports a biblical worldview. I think this is a must for all families. This is a no-brainer, because if we don't disciple our children, the culture gladly will. And Brave Books is providing resources for us to be the kind of parents the Lord calls us to be. And just for my listeners, you can get 20% off your order today. 20% off your order today. Go to bravebooks.com, bravebooks.com/Seth, my name. And then use code Seth. Again, that's bravebooks.com/Seth and use code Seth for 20% off your first order today. We love Brave Books, and you will too.
Great. I love it. It's neat. We've become, I'll give a little back history on it, but we've become the largest Christian-based personal development organization in the country.
Congratulations.
So within 6 years, we launched it in January of 2020, right before, perfect timing, right, for an event, for an event company. So anyway, we launched our first event, and I got the calling and by the way, I love what you do. I love what you've built. I believe men and women, right? We need to be leaders in the marketplace and like be building something, be employing. That's why like what Charlie built, the number of employees that he had is quite incredible. So we should be on the forefront, I believe, as Christians, like leading and building and in the marketplace. Absolutely. So I want to see more men, right? I want to see more men leading organizations. So we can just take over this country.
That's right.
We need to have more Christian men owning real estate, owning business real estate, owning. I saw a billboard the other day, and you might have seen it on the social media. It said Jesus is not. I couldn't tell what it said. It said Jesus is not God or Jesus is not good. Did you see that post? It was black. So somebody had put a giant billboard that said Jesus is not God, like on the side of the road. And so it got me thinking, I'm like, man, we need to own those billboards, So we need to own more stuff inside of this country, not allowing. So anyway, so we launched it in 2020. I got a vision to just go take what I had done and my business experience. I have a lot of entrepreneurial experience building companies up until that point, and it's sold some. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to take my systematic skills, my business skills, my love for Jesus, my love for fitness, my love for marriage. I'm going to go merge it all into one organization, put on our first event. 11 guys showed up, and 2 guys quit halfway through. And it was a pretty epic, intense journey. We didn't know what we were doing. It was pretty Wild West back then. But anyway, launched it. And then God's been blessing this thing ever since that January 23rd event in 2020. So.
Wow. Because you guys do a variety of different events.
Yeah.
Right? Tell us about some of the events you do.
Well, we have these intro events, which is like it's called the Covenant. It's for this Gen Z guys. We have an event for non-business owners. We have an event where we help CEOs and business owners scale their companies. It's all the same base event, this intro. And then we have an event for pastors, which I really love. So we have about 54 pastors from all over the country coming in a couple weeks to go do this thing. And so those are our intro events. Once they come, then we have a 12 months to 5-year discipleship journey that we take them on, where it's weekly calls. We have an app. We have coaches, we have accountability, we have a whole process to help them. We have more men reading the Bible each day because of this process and like our app that we have than many churches do. So discipleship's a really important part of of living in freedom, I would say, is discipleship. So and question for you, discipleship wise, like where do you get your discipleship? I'm curious. Like where are you, how are you growing on your journey? Like I always like hearing people's different, like some people it's a Bible study, it's church, it's podcasts, books. Like what's been working for you?
Yeah, well, I'm in a discipleship cohort with some other dudes who are leaders or CEOs or politicians, and all fathers and husbands.
What was the name of that one again? Or
well, no, I'm just in a discipleship cohort.
You guys just you guys put something together?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And
okay.
My mentor,
I love that.
My mentor, who's 71, brought us together, and we have like mandated reading and discipleship study homework, going through a book of the Bible, and then we'll like arrange like one or two gatherings a year in person. But it's all like if we get one a year, it's like good, because it's all very busy.
But how transformational was this for you?
Well, we're only like 9 months in.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
It will be. If you stick that thing out, what I found is that when men or women do life together like that, like in these cohorts, and like if it's
huge.
if there's some structure to it, and there's reading and there's growing and there's processing and digging in the word, and then some gatherings, if it's done right, it is it's
well, because most builders, especially if they're fighters, but most builders in general, entrepreneurs, CEO founders, the people that are leading and growing, they often, if they're not intentional, are actually pretty lonely.
Yeah. It's very, very common. They get good at what they do, and then they just go after it, and it becomes a execution thing. So really, that was me when I launched Rise Up Kings, and so we've built, like, we have about 50 different cohorts like that.
Wow.
That are running inside of Rise Up Kings.
It's huge.
So I'm passionate. Your model is perfect. That's basically what we've designed, but on a just a larger.
Dude, I love it, man.
A larger scale.
So, Skylar, what do you think the church gets wrong about manhood, and what pastors? Obviously, there's exceptions, right? Like, I speak in churches all around the country, and they're some of the most warrior pastors, super bold. Mm-hmm. But by and large, what do you think the church, especially maybe in the last century in America, has gotten wrong or missed, or even like screwed up in how it teaches or forms men?
Yeah, I would say, I'm sure you've probably taught on this, but the feminization of church, right? But what I believe what started the feminization of the church, meaning where they've geared the teaching and the pulpit and the congregation around women. So that was the number one mistake, was gearing it, was being unwilling to have hard conversations, and therefore soften the environment to be accepting of everybody, which can feel a little bit feminine, like it's motherly, like it's just a straight. So that motherly aspect of the church, there's some benefits to it, but really having a man leading and guiding is I believe mandated by God for a reason. It's so we can be like my wife doesn't like having the hard conversations. I had a hard conversation with some people today. She loves that I get to do it. So I think the feminization, and then the second thing is lack of discipleship. Their churches don't know how to do discipleship very well. So they have maybe a Bible study. They don't know how to help a man heal from childhood wounds. The statistic is 1 in 3 men have been sexually molested. So touched, or they've touched somebody else. They've been touched, or they've touched somebody else. As a boy, as a teenager.
1 in 3?
Yep. Oh yeah, it's significant. A lot of this stuff comes up at some of our, actually all of our events. But yes, it's very common that, and again, how was your upbringing? Fairly good home? Okay.
Yeah.
So then you might not have experienced that. Even in good homes, you can, though. You get 2 boys or some kids around, or an uncle or somebody, like, little kid might pull his pants down or do something. So anyway, so there's a lot of that. So how do you? We have a lot of unhealed men. Like so out here we had with Gateway Church, Robert Moore. Oh, right. Yeah. That whole deal. A lot of people don't know this about Robert, but he was sexually abused. Right. And so a sexual abused person ends up sexually abusing other people. That's how it works.
Right.
And so church doesn't know how to go heal that and to like go step in that space, or like how do we bring these things into the light where people don't keep them in the dark? So there's a lack of discipleship, I would say, that's the church doesn't know how to do. And so I'd say that's the biggest gap that I see, is churches not making more of an effort to disciple their men and to allow for space for these kind of conversations to just be had inside the congregation, because they have the mask on where they want to be. I think the pastors, the worst thing they can do is to pretend like they have it all together. My favorite thing is when I see a pastor share on stage about a struggle with lust. When that guy goes up and say, "Hey guys, last week looked too long on Instagram, was a little inappropriate," and he can share that, it creates space for everybody else to share that. Instead, but what's the consequences if a pastor shares that? The board is going to say, hey, let's have a conversation. All right, you're off the, we're going to pull you out for 6 months. Go do some work. So he doesn't have the ability to create transparency. What I found is people that live in the dark, when they have these secrets in the dark, it eats away at them. So the church has become a place where you hide things, not where you bring stuff. If you're struggling with porn, let's talk about you're struggling with porn. Like we don't, but it's not a safe space to bring out a lot of this stuff. So men and women, they get trapped in these religious facades that doesn't allow healing to happen and discipleship to fully play out. So I'd say, I'm noticing a lot of that.
Do you think that is a byproduct in any way of career pastors? Meaning it is a relatively new phenomenon that in the history of the church, Skylar, that pastors have a full-time salary from the church, which is now a 501c3, without which he can't feed his children. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't examples in church history of the church that gathers that helps support the pastor. There's always been some sort of extent or example of that, but for a long time, preaching pastors were bivocational. They were doing lots of other things. They would have been able to feed their children, and their wife without being subsidized in some way by the people to whom they preach. So that's a conversation most people don't really talk about, and it's often it feels uncomfortable because it's like, well, are you judging me? And I think it's okay, by the way, for pastors to get a paycheck, if they can devote themselves fully to the ministry. I'm not saying that's wrong, but do you think that might be a byproduct of the relatively new and modern way that we do church? Guys, this June 5th and 6th in Colorado, Mile High City, baby. Believers from across the nation are gathering for The Last Stand, a powerful, spirit-filled 2-day event of worship, fellowship, and fearless teaching. And this year, we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of America and casting vision on how the church must move now to save our nation. This isn't just another event. It's a mobilization of the church and the next generation to finish the fight for life and family in a culture that has lost its way. And with speakers like Allie Beth Stuckey and Dr. Frank Turek and Dr. George Grant and Victor Marks and more, this is the moment to rise up, unite, and declare life over this generation. So get your ticket for The Last Stand by going to thelaststand.com, thelaststand.com, and use code Seth, my name, for 20% off your ticket. I'll see you in Colorado on June 5th and 6th, 2026.
That's a great observation. I think it absolutely 100% plays into it. If the people that are providing for your kid's livelihood and your wife's livelihood are the people that you're preaching to, there's some major conflict there and conflict of interest. So you're going to be less likely to say things that could offend, and you're going to be less likely to live in the light and be fully transparent. So there's some major, and I don't know what the solution to that is. I don't, because stuff's gotten so expensive. It is very difficult to be bivocational as a pastor. So there's got to be some solution. But I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing pastors step down and from different quote unquote scandals. It's getting so I'm sure that plays into it. There needs to be more healing, not like therapy type healing, but sometimes therapy type healing. Some people need to go do some deep work and work on themselves. So.
Do you think our culture's more threatened by weak men or wicked men?
Depends on what side of the aisle you're talking about as far as who's threatened. Are you saying I think the most dangerous thing to our culture is weak men. I believe weak men are a cancer to our country. A weak man is a man that is not willing to take a stand for what he believes in for fear of consequence of what could happen, physical or emotional or financial. right?
Yep.
Consequence. So I believe weak men are the cause of the problems. A weak man leaves his kid. A weak man moves to a different state when his kids live in one state. A weak man chooses to give in to pornography when his wife's laying right next to them. So weakness is like the culprit, and Satan, the enemy, uses that to create devastation. A weak man sees something wrong happening in culture and doesn't say anything about it or is afraid to post on it. So there is, and again, I got weakness that shows up. I have weakness that show, and I'm wanting to weed it out because I know weakness will cause me to stray and to cause damage to those I love and that are around me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's good. I agree. Wickedness is not new. In fact, it's usually the same foes and evils that continue to return. What allows it to thrive is men who kind of know better up here in their mind, but they self-censor, or they just step aside.
You're pretty outspoken.
Or worse yet, I don't give a bleep. Or they're like Lot, and they actually say, "Hey, I got some daughters in the living room. Let me go get those. I'll bring those to you instead. Just keep inviting me to your parties. Make sure that we're chill, right?" And that's the problem with careful men. Actually, I want to get your thoughts on this, Skyler.
Yeah.
I don't like careful men, generally speaking, because my experience has been, especially in the last year or two, with people that I used to call friends, or I used to maybe even like consider like a mentor-ish kind of figure. My experience has been that careful men are always a breath away from cowardly men. That's been my experience. And what I mean is like careful in like, I'm not going to speak up on this person on my team. I'm not going to speak up on this person who's a professor with me at this. I'm not going to speak up on this person who's kind of like, we kind of do some cool things together. I'm not going to speak up on this person who like, maybe they sign my paychecks. Maybe like, I'm not going to speak up on this person, right? They just approach the world very carefully. I'm going to be really going to nuance how I address using pronouns. If the guy with a huge dangling participle wants me to say she, I'm gonna be really like nuanced about that conversation because we want people to know we are Christians by our love, and like the men who just approach the world really carefully, they almost 95% of them become cowards.
Yeah, wow.
What's your experience?
Yeah, my experience is, I use a different word on that. I use nice. So the difference between a nice guy and a kind guy. So a nice guy, and if you actually look up the definition, and by the way, Jesus never told us to be nice.
Yep.
Nowhere in the Bible are we told to be nice at all or careful, right? The reason someone's careful is because they want to be nice. But nice is an external. So if you look it up, the difference between kind and nice is an external act. So it's made for yourself. So you're seen as nice. I want to be seen as nice and experienced as nice. So I want to be seen as a nice guy. So that's for me. Kind is an external. Kind is completely focused on other people. Kindness has nothing to do with me or how I want to be seen. It's all about showing kindness to other people for the benefit of them. Niceness is for the benefit of me. We'll play it like it's for them, but really we want to be seen as nice. So niceness, anytime I see a nice guy, like too nice, my red, like you said, careful. My little check it. My little orange light pops on like, okay, be careful. Someone that's too nice will hide things and won't do the courageous things. So I need a little bit of agitation, or I need something where I can tell they're not just nice, because that person could screw you over. I need to know that there's that they're kind. A kind person, they are willing to have a hard conversation and call somebody out. A nice person will avoid the hard conversation because it's not nice, right? So kind is actually, Jesus was kind, man. He would call people a fool. Saying someone's a fool is not nice. It is kind, though. It is kind because it's actually going to help them self-reflect. So I absolutely agree with you on that one.
Whew. Thomas Sowell said, Skyler, if you want to help someone, tell them the truth. If you want to help yourself, tell them what they want to hear.
So good.
And that's kind of what you're saying.
Yep, 100%. That's right on.
Dang, dude, that was brutal, dude. There's so much truth in that. Yeah, that's why my warning lights go off around careful men. By the way, careful men, what you're saying, nice guys, they also tend to be navel gazers. So this has been my experience. You can tell me what yours has been, but the Christian nice guys, or super careful dudes.
You got the voice down.
Careful dudes are generally navel gazers. They really like their own belly button. They're very flexible. They can almost stick their tongue into their belly button. They've been staring at it for so long. And so they tend to be threatened by other men who are more gifted or more outspoken or more courageous because they know that an individual like that could take away some of their fire or take away some of their followers or threaten some of their donors, or cause some of their tithers to leave for another church. Careful men, being navel gazers, never see strong men as opportunities, as partnerships or challenges for growth, but as a threat to their cute little kingdom that they've built up. So they don't get behind men that the Lord is raising up, that the Lord is giving opportunities for kingdom impact to. They hold those people at arm's length. They see them as a threat, rather than as someone to come alongside to do greater things for the Lord and for the kingdom of God. Careful men are self-obsessed navel gazers. And so they generally will only speak as much truth as the spirit of the age allows them to. That's been my experience.
That's good. That's good. They'll speak as much truth as is as acceptable to that moment or to the people around them. When it becomes unacceptable, they're unwilling to have those hard conversations. I remember right when California was passing a law around gay marriage, and they had finally passed it. It passed on Friday, and where they were legalizing gay marriage in California.
I remember.
And so I had a lady that was gay on our team. When I was running my restoration company, construction company. And so it was Saturday morning. I'm sitting there. I'm watching Facebook, and everybody's profile pictures change to the
equal sign,
to the rainbow. Everyone's going rainbow on it. And so I'm watching all these posts. Yay. And I'm like, oh, this is back before my feed was conservative. And so I don't know what was going on back then. Now that I'm processing through it,
right.
So I was watching all these posts, and I'm like, oh man, no one's saying anything the opposite, because it's like not nice to like talk against this. And so I just watch it, and so I'm like, all right, crap. Like I gotta say something. And so I'm like, all right. So I posted. I'm like, hey, I wrote this like thoughtful post. Like I don't agree. I think it's the wrong thing, and I have people that are gay that I love. So I go through, I write this beautiful post. I get a text message from this lady that I totally forgot about. And she said, hey, can we talk? I'm like, oh crap, dude, one of my main team members on my team. And so she calls me up and she says, Skyler, like, I want to talk about your post. And I go, okay. She says, I can't believe that you would think that I'm less of a human being because I'm gay. And I'm like, and then it turned into this whole twisted thing. She ended up coming in on Monday, quitting, telling everybody else in the company that I said she was less of a person on the phone. And like, so there are consequences. So anyway, so the purpose of that, there are consequences, but who is your God? Is your God your status, your niceness, your finances, or is your God your God? And are you willing to sacrifice it all to do the right thing? And so that's something that I've had to kind of come to terms with. Am I willing to lose followers? And I saw Nicki Minaj. Did you see that? That was wild, right? That she was that willing to be open about like, it just some conservative.
You mean the Christian persecution, the Christians being murdered around the
she lost a massive amount of followers for.
Yeah, I know. And like, here's this like absolutely atrocious pop culture figure.
Oh, man.
Nothing to admire or follow in Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
And if you listen to her music, you should probably take a shower and repent. And
bad.
yet she was showing more courage about our slaughtered brothers and sisters around the globe than most Christians. But the rainbow stuff. Yeah, if a man can't stand up against the gay sex rainbow cult, he probably won't stand up against anything else. I mean, that has been normalized so quickly. By the way, like, gay sex is really bad for you. Like, it takes years off your life and you'll probably die early. So it'd be very kind for Christian men to say, don't put that in that. That's super bad for you, actually. And in a way, you actually are less human, not in your dignity, not in your value, but because you're inverting the natural order. And so you're dehumanizing yourself. So I would actually kind of like almost half agree with the person who attacked you. Of course, like, this is going to get watched by Right Wing Watch. And like,
this is some controversial stuff. Bring it on, baby.
I think I have an assigned viewer at Right Wing Watch, but they're great publicists. But when you do gay stuff, it actually does make you less human. Your value and your dignity as a human being is the same, but you're dehumanizing yourself. You're inverting the most fundamental, foundational aspect of being human, which is like, don't do this because it doesn't fit and it's super bad for you and it doesn't make children and it can't procreate. And so when you try to defy God's natural order, the most fundamental aspects of being human, which is the biological sexual complementarity of the sexes, and you try to force what doesn't go together to be together, like the scene from The Office, then like you are becoming less human, but you're doing it to yourself. That's the same problem with abortion. Right, is rather than accepting responsibility for a human that exists because you did a sex thing, you believe you have the right to orgasms without responsibility. And so therefore you will now become the oppressor. First, you dehumanized your own body by engaging in dehumanizing acts, which, if you continue to do them, literally shorten your lifespan. And now you're just as quick to dehumanize the product of your dehumanizing sex, whether that was heterosexual sex outside of God's plan, right, out of wedlock, which is not the human way that God intended for things to be, or it's by, buying a woman's egg, or if you're, two girls buying a dude's sperm and then paying a surrogate so you can take a child home to a motherless or fatherless home. All of this is dehumanizing. And so, of course, those same people will then turn on the child and treat it like a parasite and murder it and call it reproductive health care. Like, all of that is making you less human. So anyways.
Yeah. What'd you think of that ad on the Super Bowl regarding adoption?
Oh, yeah. So actually, one of my buddies helped make that. He actually funded and designed the whole thing. Wow. And I thought it was beautiful in its way that it brought adoption conversations into the public square. Yep. And the dude's a buddy and I absolutely love him. I may not have portrayed the pro-lifers as angry, screaming people, but that's not what the people behind it believe. They were trying to say we have these like two sides. One saying don't kill the baby, one saying kill the baby. Yeah. And we have left out of the conversation that, you know what? Like, adoption is the very heart of the gospel. And if you're not ready to quote unquote accept motherhood, right, then there are millions of people who are. And you shouldn't feel shame or condemnation if you consider the other option, adoption. So I thought the how it brought that conversation back into the mainstream was beautiful, and I know the people behind it, and they're absolute warriors. Yeah, that's great. What are you seeing, real quick, with the trend of abortions? I have not been following the number of abortions over the last couple of years, especially since Trump has been in office. Do you have any stats on abortions? Yeah, I love this. You're interviewing me now. More babies are being murdered now, Skyler, since the overturning of Roe versus Wade than before. 70% and it's going to be more soon, by the way. It may be more now as we're speaking, because it takes a while to get data. You know, the data is always about the year before, 18 months before. Yeah. But it's probably 70% or more right now of babies being murdered through abortion are through the abortion pill. That's medication abortion. We're not talking forceps. We're not talking suction vacuum catheter tubes that suction the limbs off of the baby. I'm saying there's still over 1 million babies being murdered every 12 months in America. In fact, the year directly following the overturning of Roe versus Wade, the year directly following, which would have been 2023, more babies were killed in the year 2023 than had been killed in 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015, 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011. It's as if you took away the federal right to child sacrifice protected in all 50 states. You send it back to the states and Americans just got more bloodthirsty. So child sacrifice is our idol. Americans believe they have the right to orgasms without responsibility. Even when you see the polling of pro-life, pro-choice, and it's like, hey, look, it's always 50%. If you then ask, according to trimester, should we ban abortion from the first trimester and protect all babies? Suddenly it's not 50-50 anymore. So most Americans who even might adopt the label pro-life, they're not even necessarily comfortable or down with actually legally protecting the baby from the point of conception. So yeah, like most Americans are common sense realists or semi-common sense realists, but unfortunately it's way more than 50% of Americans who believe that the woman should have the right at some point in the pregnancy to murder her baby, because that's a fundamental women's healthcare right. And now with 70% of the abortions, meaning over 700,000 babies last year, Skyler, were not killed by abortionists. The mother was the abortionist. And the box tells you, it's the RU486 abortion pill. It says, don't look and flush. You're supposed to sit on the toilet and that child is delivered after they've been murdered by the first regimen of the pill and they're flushed down the toilet. And so, we're not going to make America great again when the sewers of our country run red with the blood of our children. So that's the short answer to your question. But this is all a failure of men to lead.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a role for women 100% in the culture war, right? But I think that just as it would be disordered to have all of the women going overseas to fight in war, to bleed and die for Americans to remain free and safe in our country, I think that it is a little bit disordered to have like the majority of the pro-life movement be female. That's a bloody, demonic manifestation of evil. It always has been. And call me crazy, I think men should be at the front lines of leading the fight against child sacrifice to demons.
It's so interesting. There's just such a limited amount of men that are engaged in that conversation. I mean, there are some loud men, but men have just
shut up, Skyler. They've said, "Oh, all right, no uterus, no opinion. All right, it's your body." You know, I guess you're right. I'll never know what it's like to be pregnant. Although the same people who tell you no uterus, no opinion, shut up, you don't have a vagina, are the same people who say that Bruce Jenner is Caitlyn and trans women are women. So, you can't expect common sense from these people.
We have a significantly large, obviously, community of men. How would you suggest they get educated and then engage in the conversation?
Yeah, well, that's what we do at the White Rose Resistance. It's education, inspiration, mobilization. Yeah. And so my podcast, the Seth Gruber Show, there's 2 episodes. You're on it right now. There's 2 episodes a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've had over 500 episodes covering all manner of things.
So just listen to some podcast.
Yeah, and then my film, The 1916 Project, which is a book and a film, and that's streaming on Daily Wire Plus, or people that join the White Rose Resistance at $35 a month or more can watch it on our White Rose app. And that's the demonic history and foundation and soil of Planned Parenthood and the sex revolutionaries of the 20th century and how that all happened, and its connections to the pedophiles, the pederasts, the Nazis, and the KKK, and the heritage of child sacrifice and the sexual revolution. And then the book goes way deeper. And then we have an app with courses, curriculum, training, live calls, like all of this sort of stuff to equip, to educate, and then inspire men to stand up. We just shut down an abortion mill in Boulder, Colorado last year because so many Christians were outside of there. It was an all trimester, third trimester trimester abortion mill, and they shut their doors because of how many Christians were out there every day contending for the life of the child. So like that's what masculine leadership looks like. But Skylar, to be the interviewer again for a second, tell us some like success stories or praise reports, or like just the stories that got you the most jazzed of a young man or an older man or a dude who came through Rise Up Kings, and kind of the fruit of that for the kingdom.
Yeah, I would say the regular stories that we hear are, let me see, we have so many good ones, but we had a guy come through that had strayed in his marriage, right? Had business, got stressful, made a poor decision, and did some damage, kept it a secret, decided he was never going to tell his wife, ended up coming to the event, realizing that keeping secrets is one of the worst things that a human being can do, because it literally takes up energy inside of your soul. And so he wanted to live in the light. And so he went back home. This happens on a regular basis, by the way. He went back home, shared with his wife what he had done. Their marriage was on the rocks because before that, but even more when that happened. His wife ended up coming through my wife's program, Rise Up Queens, and they have the most epic marriage now and have reconciled through that process, and they have an even stronger marriage. So that story is a very common one, but the specific guy I'm thinking about, their life and their legacy of choosing now to stay together, but to live have a passionate marriage. I believe if we can strengthen the family unit and marriages that way, we can completely transform our country. And so that's where my heart is when working with men, is I want to see them live in the light, heal, strengthen themselves or get strengthened, and then show up with more power, more authority, more love inside of their family, and then change generations by the way that they show up. So that I believe is what's absolutely possible for organizations like ours that choose to serve men, and yours. I mean, yours is pretty insane of the ripple effect. But what we do is that. So that's the coolest thing for me is seeing marriages salvaged and men that show up with their kids with a different level of care and thoughtfulness.
Yeah. Well, I know we've gone long before as we wind down, Skylar. Like for people listening or any men listening, like if a man feels like he's already failed his family, where does he begin rebuilding? And like, what would you advise the first steps for a man like that to be?
Yeah, if a man, that's a great question. So if a man has messed up, right, struggled with pornography, alcoholism, or drugs, or slipped up, or some way they're missing the mark with their family, I would say number one is bringing it into the light, right? Acknowledging it, and then digging into scripture, right? Choosing to read the Bible, and then getting some brotherhood, like you talked about your cohort, finding some guys that he can talk with, work with, some guys that can support him on accountability and just be there on the journey of life. It can get lonely. And so finding those, so bringing it to light, right? Scripturally digging in. Like I believe the power of the Bible is it will literally transform a human being over time. So that it can shift your will from wanting the things of this world to like all of a sudden wondering, hey, why do I no longer want, like I stopped drinking alcohol completely this last year, and not because I had an issue, but I'm like, it just doesn't serve me. And so like, I don't even want it. And so there's just been the Bible has the power to completely transform what somebody wants in their life. And so you can behavioral management it all the time, sin management. I'm just going to grind it out. Yes, that works sometimes, and allow the Bible and this process to transform you to where you don't even want it anymore. And so I'd say that's what's possible. Then find some brothers, find some guys to go walk alongside with, and do not do life alone. I found that a guy will do more always when he's surrounded by other like-minded guys. He'll always perform at a higher level. There is not one man on the planet that will perform better by himself. Like if you're in an ice bath, you're in a boxing ring, you're in marriage, you will always do more with other guys surrounding you and rooting you on. So we need that as men.
Which means that you have to make the time for it. You have to make it intentional, and it's not a bro club. It's not a man club, so you can stroke each other's ego. But if you don't know others and are not known, then you will operate in isolation, and you will set yourself up for catastrophic failure. And so, given all of that, how can people connect with Rise Up Kings? Tell people where to go so they can learn more, and maybe like some of the guys listening to this will want to actually engage either with some of your resources or attend an event.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, you can follow me online, Skylar, Skylar Lewis, or just follow us online at riseupkings.com or our social media profiles. And intro points, usually that initial experience for guys that feel stuck and are looking to have a 3-day transformational like process. So that's the best way. For sure.
I love it, dude. Well, I'll be in Dallas, Fort Worth in April for a Turning Point Faith Pastors Summit. And then I head off to Brenham. So if I have any time, I'll hit you up beforehand.
Love to.
That would
love
be
to have
good.
you on my podcast too, if possible, and love to talk to you more about how to support your organization with some of our resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there's probably a lot of natural crossover in terms of resources, our app. There's a lot that might be a blessing to one another. But brother, we've gone a long time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your leadership. And we're gonna pray. Even after this, that a lot of men and marriages are blessed by connecting with all that you've built for the church and for men. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Skylar, and we'll see you soon.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Head on over to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Give the show a rating and review. We really appreciate it. We actually are going to start reading. We've been reading some of your reviews on the show because they're so encouraging. Like some of the kind of stories, like Skylar says, people just so engaged and their lives changed through this my silly little show, and then like that. You guys make my day. So if you haven't, go to iTunes, hit 5 stars, or Spotify, and then write in a review. Let us know what you think about the show. Believe it or not, it shoves the show up the charts. More people are exposed to it through your little act of doing that. Subscribe at Rumble. Because remember, YouTube, gay communist technocrats have deleted this show from YouTube before. So subscribe at Rumble, where free speech lives, and go to the whiterose.life. If you want to join the resistance as an ally at $35 a month, turn you into a pro-life ninja, or get your ticket for The Last Stand, June 5th and 6th in Denver at Brave Church. Oh, the lineup's going to rip your face off. TheLastStand.com. Until next time, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is The Seth Gruber Show.